So let's go ahead and talk about James Comey. So as many of you know, we've covered here on the channel, James Comey is in trouble with Donald Trump. Not only Donald Trump, but he was indicted by the federal government. Yes, he was indicted for lying and making false statements, a bunch of stuff we're going to get into, and I won't go over it in too much detail again. But with that being said, it's appearing that Comey may be facing even more charges as a result of this initial indictment. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out hearing from the president and what he had to say about the indictment. I'm sure he's very pleased with this, especially with the issues he had with Comey. And shout out to Eric for posting this over on X. He says the President Trump just dropped the mic. Why does he say that? Let's find out.
President, they will indict your FBI director or people in your administration.
That's what they tried to do, right? They did it with me. For 4 years, they went after me. They went after me for 4 years, and that doesn't include the 4 great years that we had in the White House. So when I ran it from, 2016, when we won, it began before I got to office. You know that. Wait a minute. Before I came to office, I started hearing rumors about Russia. I said, what the hell do I have to do with Russia? Nothing. And then it got worse and worse, and some of the fakers, not you, but some of the fake news picked it up and they loved it. And we went through a long time with that. And despite that, we had a great first term.
Because that's how it went, where they made you go and take a mugshot. Is this more about justice or is it about revenge?
It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about it's also about the fact that you can't let this go on. They are sick, radical left people, and they can't get away with it. And Comey was one of the people. He wasn't the biggest, but he's a dirty cop. He's always been a dirty cop. Everybody knew it. And it's, as far as the case is concerned, he gave an answer. It was just.
And it's interesting to hear this from the president, and I'll tell you guys why. We have covered at length on this channel before the election went on, during the election, after the election. And one thing I have been consistent about saying, even as Joe Biden was leaving office, is Joe Biden better protect a lot of these people that were involved in this whole election Russia interference investigation. Because we know for a fact Kamala Harris was involved. We know for a fact Fani Willis was involved. We're going to talk about it later. And Donald Trump was not going to let this go. Let's check out some more information about this.
Former FBI Director James Comey, now the first.
Oh, I've got it in chipmunk mode. My bad, y'all. I had this sped up earlier. Listen to it. Here we go.
Of the Obama-era officials indicted for charges stemming from the Russiagate hoax and the investigation. He's facing 2 counts, lying to Congress and obstruction of justice. But former House Intelligence Committee Chairman and current Trump Media CEO Devin Nunes tells me it's entirely possible more charges are coming for Comey and more former Intel officials. Watch.
Comey has long been a liar, a leaker. He's dishonest. He ruined the FBI. He will be lucky if there is not a grand conspiracy charge brought, which is really what should be brought against probably about 24 characters in the United States over the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, and that's, again, including Hillary Clinton, Fani Willis, Joe Biden. Who knows how many people had a hand in this? I mean, even Mayor Andre Dickens here in Atlanta was up there at the White House talking about some stuff. It's crazy.
Should there be more charges against Jim Comey?
Very specific, and it's over whether or not he lied on this one part. The larger part is whether or not you can bring a kind of grand conspiracy case. And, people talk about, there's the law, which is, lying to Congress, lying to the FBI, but there's also a term in there called misleading. And what a lot of these guys did is they made up things using intelligence that didn't exist, but acted like they knew something that actually wasn't there, and they lied and misled the American people. The only intelligence that they had is that the Russians were very well aware of Clinton's plan, and they actually not only thought Clinton was going to win, but likely preferred that she would win. So going back to the cover-up of her missing emails, that, by the way, are still missing, they all got involved in this plan. They all got the FBI exercise.
President Trump was asked about the investigation on Friday. He did not mince words on just what he thinks of Comey.
justice or is it about revenge?
It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about justice. It's also about the fact that you can't let this go on. They are sick, radical left people, and they can't get away with it. And Comey was one of the people. He wasn't the biggest, but he's a dirty cop. He's always been a dirty cop. Everybody knew it.
Yeah, the question now is, will we see a bigger charge here, Liz Peek? You heard what Devin Nunes said, and I think the whole crux of this idea is the fact that they misled the court, they misled the American people. Is that part of a grander conspiracy that they tried to play against President Trump? That's what Lindsey Graham said, as well as Devin Nunes. And if we have the court proving that there is a larger grand conspiracy here, and that's the reason that they also, by the way, raided Mar-a-Lago to get the report on what they did for Russia collusion, that's what you've got coming out now. That's what people are talking about. Devin Nunes, and here's Lindsey Graham, who at the time was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee when they.
Well, and you have to include Kamala Harris in this too. Joe Biden did not give her a pardon. He handed out a ton of pardons before he left office. I was shocked and surprised he didn't give one to Kamala Harris. This is not going to be good. It's not going to be good. And this is going to be nasty too, because you can see, we're going to talk about it here, President Trump laying the foundation to really get everybody. Like I said, from Fannie Willis to the former vice president. President, obviously, Joe Biden's not going to be involved, but may he be brought in for questioning as possible.
They perpetrated this on Trump. Watch this.
He's presumed innocent until proven otherwise. If I'm the Department of Justice, I better get my best lawyers on the field, because Patrick Fitzgerald, Comey's lawyer, is a great lawyer. But the idea he leaked classified information to create a narrative politically, I think that's a strong case. But there's so much else. In 2016, Comey received a memo from the intelligence community, an investigative lead, suggesting that it was Hillary Clinton's campaign who signed off on the plan to link Trump to Russia to avoid her problems. Now, the question is, did they ever take that allegation seriously? He told me that doesn't ring a bell when I asked him in 2020. Can you imagine the Republican candidate for president, that you got a memo from the CIA saying it may be his opponent who's starting this line of inquiry, and the FBI did nothing about it? So Patel's going to tell me if whether or not they opened up an investigation. So every time there was some exculpatory information, the court never heard about it. Yeah. Every person who signed the Carter Page warrant said, if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have signed it. Comey.
Now, interesting thing about this, too. I want to point this out, just something I observed. Lindsey Graham is not in Atlanta. And why do I bring that up? His background is of Atlanta. Now, why would that be? Well, if you look into the history of what happened with this whole election interference situation, one of the reasons Lindsey Graham has been in Atlanta in the past and could possibly be in Atlanta is because there's something is about to go down right here in Fulton County. Why do I say that? Look at this information I have. So in 2022, Lindsey Graham was subpoenaed to testify before a special grand jury in Atlanta in the investigation of efforts to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results. Guys, one thing you will hear from me here on this channel is I do not believe in coincidences. Lindsey Graham was already called to testify back in 2022 about what was going on with the election results. And now he's sitting here with the background of his video being in Atlanta. Lindsey Graham was mainly based in South Carolina. He served in South Carolina for years and years and years and years. Why would this background be there? Again, this may be a little bit of conspiracy theory, but Lindsey Graham is connected to Atlanta. Check this out. Also, Lindsey Graham challenged that the subpoena, trying to have it heard in federal court in Atlanta rather than before the Fulton County Superior Court. The special grand jury report actually recommended charges, including charges against Graham, though he was not indicted. Keep that in mind. Let's move forward.
Knew then what we all know now and ignored it. I believe he withheld exculpatory information from the court because he wanted Trump to be found guilty. The memo from the Intel Committee in September 2016 was addressed to Comey, suggesting Hillary Clinton was behind this, and a copy went to Strzok. Did they take it seriously? I want to know that answer to that question.
So Liz Peek, weigh in here, because we know that John Brennan knew that Hillary Clinton was putting together this whole fantasy of Trump colluding with Russia. He was in that Oval Office meeting at the end of 2016 or early 2017, and he wrote his little notes there. We have a picture of it, and we have the memo of the notes that basically told all of them Hillary Clinton, and the Russians are aware that Hillary Clinton is coming up with a story that Trump is somehow tied to Russia as a way to hide her own email scandal.
Yeah, Maria, there's no question that James Comey was part and parcel of a grand conspiracy, basically to, I would say, destabilize the Trump presidency, to put it under pressure from day one, because the American people were led to believe that he was a tool of Vladimir Putin. And sadly, you continue to hear that charge raised over and over again. They did a great job of smearing this government. And we spent, 2-3 years through the courts, through various kinds of investigations, trying to prove that Vladimir Putin had organized and run the election that elected Donald Trump, when in fact just the opposite was true. He was gunning for Hillary Clinton to become president. So I think anything they can throw at James Comey is too little. I think he was basically the head of all of this. On the other hand, they better be sure it sticks. They better be sure it's narrow enough that they can convict this guy, because to go through all this and to go back in time to bring these charges, and Lindsey Graham's totally right. He's a slippery guy. He's got good lawyers. This better be solid, and I sure hope it is.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, and shout out to, I see y'all talk about Lindsey Graham. Listen, I am not a Lindsey Graham fan at all. I was in South Carolina for many of my life and had to deal with the leadership of Lindsey Graham for a long time. We'll just leave it at that. But again, we have to look at things objectively, and what is the person saying? Is it possible? Could these things be true? Does Lindsey Graham have a point? Because he's been involved with this entire interference situation going back several years ago. If you haven't seen the indictment yet, I know we keep going through this, but I want to bring this up for y'all because it's so simple, it's so short and to the point. It makes me believe that there's a lot of evidence here that we haven't seen, and we're actually going to get into some specific evidence coming up here shortly in the next topic. But check this out. Here's the indictment if you haven't seen it yet. We have count 1, James Comey versus the United States of America. False statements within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the United States government. What do we have? On September 30th of 2020, James Comey did willfully and knowingly make a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the government of the United States by falsely stating to a U.S. senator during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that he, James Comey, had not authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning person 1. That statement was false because, as James Comey then and there knew, he in fact had authorized someone else, person 3, to serve as an anonymous source in news reporting regarding an FBI investigation concerning person 1. That person may or may not have been a gentleman with the last name McCabe. Yes, and I know y'all are probably thinking, what? The McCabes are back? This is a different McCabe. We're going to be talking about him in the next video, so make sure y'all stay tuned for that. Count 2. On or about September 30th of 2020, it's alleged that James Comey committed obstruction of a congressional proceeding by he did corruptly endeavor to influence, obstruct, and impede the due and proper exercise of the power of inquiry under which an investigation was being had before the Senate Judiciary Committee by making false and misleading statements before that committee. And that is all that's in the indictment. What? This is it. So we're going to have to see a lot moving forward if these are to stick, as was mentioned by Lindsey Graham. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments and in the chat. And then we've got, this is going to be so fun. Shout out to all 1,400 of you in the building. All right. Wow. This is an absolute mess. And we got to see it on the other side. We got to see Trump indicted. We got to see the evidence about that. We got to hear about Stormy Daniels, and Trump had his day for accountability. Now, tables have turned. Trump said, all right, you guys tried it. I'm back in office. You had the Russia thing. You had Stormy Daniels. You tried to bring me down. It didn't work. Now, guess what? You want to talk about justice? Here it comes.